In 1999, a Supreme Court of Canada decision reaffirming the rights of the Mi'kmaq to commercially fish to support their families and communities created a change in those communities. This change reflected a return to the independence the Mi'kmaq had always had. This is the story of Ilnu, the people.
It was interesting in the fact that, like, this community said, okay, how do we do this and it's going to benefit everybody?
After Marshall, we've had approximately 50 employees in our community.
There was potential of so much growth.
In my opinion, education is the key to a growing community, so we want to tap into the youth and make sure that they're pursuing their educational opportunities.
There's been tremendous change. Many of our people had decided to fish after the Marshall decision.
What we're doing here with the band-owned boats is we're training our fishers to be fishermen.
When we move forwards, it just seems as though the non-Aboriginal community resists that change. And as unfortunate as it is, that's a reality.
I think that we've always had a beautiful little community, certainly full of challenges and lots of concerns and a lot of work needing to be done. A lot of work having been done. So I think that in 2000 there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity until Marshall came into effect. But I think we've dealt well with that. I remember when the decision first came down, there was an emergency meeting called, and everybody in the community, I think, was up in the little conference room at the band office, and we're all saying, okay, what are we going to do? It was interesting in the fact that this community said, okay, how do we do this and it's going to benefit everybody? We did want to have some kind of a plan in place, and we did want to figure out a way that everybody would have access.
Well, in the year 2000, prior to the Marshall decision, there wasn't a whole lot of economic development activities, so the level of social assistance was very high and jobs were very few.
If you wanted to work, you had to leave the island to get it, basically. They had some work in the winter. That's basically all it was, for the few people that worked at the band office that had jobs year-round.
The people never had the right to fish and earn a living through the fishery. The social conditions were a forced welfare system that was designed by the federal government to kill our initiative and our culture.
The working conditions were not that good. Fairness and accountability remained a problem, and the community was still adjusting after a period of transition. During that time, there wasn't much talk concerning the treaties or a real understanding, I think, of the culture and what that would mean to the community.
Well, for the fishery program, our program officially started in 1993, right after the Sparrow decision. This is the first time we entered the commercial lobster industry. Up until 2000, most of the workforce in the community consisted of carpenters and laborers.
I think people were so happy that they had the opportunity now to hunt, fish, and gather. Potential of so much growth.
Well, since 2000, with the Marshall Response Initiative, we've seen phenomenal change in our community in terms of economic development, increased jobs. Our community's thriving both culturally, socially, and we're quite pleased.
Come quite a ways. It has a lot of people working on Lennox Island. There's, I think it's 27 fishing boats, 3 of which are snow crab. There's a lot of work onshore as well. At one time on Lennox Island, you could count the cars, and if a car drove by, you know who it was, right? And now there's such a difference that it's just traffic, constant traffic, that everybody's got a car and truck and everything else. You hardly can tell who owns what now because everybody's got one. So it's been a big improvement.
I feel that since that time the community's grown in leaps and bounds, and I think that there's a true sense of pride. People have cleaned their yards up and they're making their houses look nice. Like those who can, really, they do want to. They want to be able to take pride in their property and have pride in ownership. Being in the fishery has given that to this community. I don't think the fishery is the end all, be all it. Like, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But that said, I think that the fishery gave people money. And when people had money from working and they could spend that money the way they wanted, that gives a person a sense of pride and a sense of accomplishment. And knowing that you're providing for your family, I think that's what was the best thing about Marshall.
There's been tremendous change. Many of our people had decided to fish after agreements were made with DFO, after the Marshall decision, where we had the right to fish and sell our catch.
The band has become more economically driven, right? So we see further developments in policies concerning housing, like the awareness of how important these policies are. Like, we've seen laws that have enabled First Nations to be more accountable. They are recognizing us more and more as our own level of government and giving us our own responsibilities.
Our fishing has increased our livelihood, I guess, and we had extension to our reserve. We had our community planning happen. We've had more people aware of their treaty rights. Our elders are looking at culture in a different perspective. In PEI, everybody knows who Mi'kmaq people are, and getting that communication and educating them in our way of life, it's amazing.
In terms of employment, living conditions and social programs, we've made the change now in the last few years. We're taking slow and incremental steps. We're building upon what we have, and in 10 years' time we still want to build that even further. We've just started now. In my opinion, education is the key to a growing community, so we want to tap into the youth and make sure that they're pursuing their educational opportunities in terms of post-secondary or trades, so that we can build upon that base and move our community even further ahead as we move along.
It's been great. The living conditions have improved quite a bit. There's more employment, more income. After Marshall, we've had approximately 50 employees in our community. We have additional businesses, Abuga Gas Bar, Redstone Auto and Marine, and Redstone Seafood.
I'd like to see more of our people having their own gears. Right now we have 8 boats that are band-owned boats. What we're doing here with the band-owned boats is we're training our fishers.
Right now, government is changing the social program in First Nation communities. They want to put us more in line with provincial rates and things like that. Every program needs to reform at some point in time, but as long as that it doesn't cause hardship. What I'd like to see is better consultation with First Nations on all matters that pertain to us. In 10 years, I would expect to see Lennox Island's fishery making money. I would expect to see the band invest in businesses so that we would have our own source revenues. I think that we have to open our eyes now and say we have to start fending for ourselves. Our interpretation comes from our culture, our language, and our traditions. That's what being Mi'kmaq is all about. Our job right now is to start preparing for the future, like to start figuring out ways to be able to continue to provide the same level of service that we can provide to our members in the future. And the only way we're going to do that is by good governance, solid governance structures, policies, and practices, and our own money.
To improve social and living conditions, there needs to be more income coming into the community, more jobs, more higher paying jobs. We need to develop more skill sets, and the way I can see that happening is to gain more commercial access in the fishing industry. We're looking into other opportunities such as shrimp and being a commissioned seafood buyer.
Biggest thing is supporting all our community members, whether you live on or off reserve, just thinking of other avenues that they can go explore. And like the fishing has opened up a lot of doors. The treaties have opened up a lot of doors. And even within our own school system, our children are learning their language. Right now, the focus on language is a lot on the youth. More education and more communication within our community, but also with other government agencies and with other organizations. With that, we'll bring a lot of the community aspect into a positive way. When you look at what's happening with even the province of PEI, where there's celebrations that are happening, and including us in those celebrations is something that is can make us be proud that we are not only Mi'kmaq and Innu, but we're also Islanders.